Guten Morgen and welcome everyone to a live training session at Säbener Straße. Bayern Munich taking to their pitch, taking to the pitch in front of their adoring fans for the first time since being crowned Bundesliga champions for a 33rd time in the Bundesliga era, German champions for a 34th time. And that's certainly not a bad feeling. I thought about starting this live stream with a rendition of We Are the Champions, but I thought I would spare the internet of that particular fate. But what we are going to do is enjoy a nice, relaxing day out at Säbener Straße, where admittedly it's a bit wet and windy, which makes it all the more impressive, the amount of people that have turned out today, because if it had been last week, they'd have been topping up their tans, they'd have been in shorts and t-shirts. Instead, you've got woolly hats, you've got winter jackets on. Winter jackets they'd probably put away in the cupboards, ready for next winter, and yet now they've had to pull them out again. But that's life in Munich around this time of year. Spring comes with its fair share of ups and downs, but the good news is that out on the pitch there have been more ups, many more ups than downs for Bayern this season. And now you see Manuel Neuer, Jonas Urbig, Sven Ulreich, Daniel Peretz, the goalkeepers, first out on the training pitch. The title celebrations took place on Sunday when Freiburg held Bayer Leverkusen to a 2-2 draw. They were 2-0 up in that game, so the fate looked sealed long in advance. Leverkusen did score 2 late goals to clinch a draw, but that was not enough to deny Bayern being crowned Bundesliga champions and reclaiming the Meisterschale after Leverkusen had wrestled it away from them for a year and for a season. And the side all met up in Munich to firstly take in the game and then celebrate the fact that they had actually been crowned champions at the end of a long and grueling season. Vincent Kompany's first in charge of the club. It has delivered silverware after a trophyless season that Bayern wanted to put behind them as quickly as possible. And the best way to do that was to win a trophy in the current campaign. That's exactly what they have delivered. Yes, they'd have liked to go further in the DFB Pokal and the Champions League as well, where the dream of another Finale daheim, unfortunately, was not turned into reality. Nevertheless, in what was Vincent Kompany's first season as head coach, to expect everything to be perfect would have perhaps been a little bit foolish. There were always going to be a few bumps in the roads. It was always about how Bayern were going to deal with them. And over the course of the whole campaign, especially in the Bundesliga, they have certainly bounced back from those setbacks. They've dealt with a lot of injuries to key players, Manuel Neuer included, but he was back on the bench for the 3-3 draw against Leipzig, and the odds of him maybe making an appearance before the end of the season, I think, are quite good. But quite frankly, having been sidelined for so long, great to see him back out and looking limber. Jonas Urbig, fair to say, has done a fantastic job in his stead there, the young goalkeeper. Some phenomenal saves made over the last couple of weeks and really thrown in at the deep end. The young man signed from Köln in the winter break. Wasn't expecting maybe to make as many appearances as he has down the final stretch of this season, but the opportunity arose due to the injury to Manuel Neuer. And Neuer had given Urbig his backing as well, even before he came to the club. And he'd actually given the young goalkeeper a phone call to say, rest assured you will get time out on the pitch this season. Quite the assurance he got given from one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. There, Leon Goretzka, Rafael Guerrero, Alexander Pavlovic. The first outfield players to take to the training pitch. A couple of the new kits have already been picked up by those in attendance at Säbener Straße. Of course, the club shop is just a little bit further down the road, so it's an easy pickup then the hope will be that maybe there'll be a signature in it. And look whose signature everyone wants. I have not seen another name on the back of a kit yet. It's Thomas Müller. It's number 25. And of course, the new iconic look to the away kit that they have produced, especially for the final home game of the season. They're being held up by the fan. Perfect. Thank you very much for that. I mean, goodness me, I'll be honest. I'm desperate to get my hands on one of those. And something tells me I will before the end of the season, because Thomas Müller's final home game is going to be quite the event, given the fact that having been crowned what we call here in Germany Sofa Meister, so Sofa champions, Bayern winning the title without kicking a ball because Leipzig denied them all 3 points on Saturday with a late equaliser. Yusuf Poulsen just putting the title celebrations on ice temporarily because officially Bayern hadn't been crowned champions at that point. They had a point advantage that could only be equaled if they lost their remaining games by a significant goal swing, and Leverkusen won their remaining games by a significant goal swing as well. But then, as mentioned, when Leverkusen dropped points against Freiburg, it was done and dusted. The fact is, if you ask these players if they could choose how to win the title, I think each and every one of them would say we want to do it on our own terms. But the fact is they've won the title, and that is what will matter to them all, and that is what they celebrated on Sunday evening in the Munich city centre. Harry Kane and co admitting that they certainly deserve the celebrations as well, given the dedication they show throughout the campaign, that at that point it's worth enjoying their evening. The fact is they still turned out at training yesterday as well. They might have been feeling the after effects of those celebrations a touch, but today something tells me they'll be fresh and just as hungry as ever. It's that final home game on Saturday against Borussia Mönchengladbach, as I said, promises to be quite the special occasion. It's the Topspiel, the highlight match of the weekend in the standalone slot on Saturday evening. The Allianz Arena will be lit up in all its glory. Hopefully the weather has turned by then and we're back to the sunnier conditions where we won't have to wrap up as much. And then Bayern, I'm sure, will be hungry to, in front of their own fans, to deliver a performance worthy of being crowned champions. And for Thomas Müller, it will be the final farewell on home soil. And there he is, the club legend. A man that Bayern fans rightly cannot get enough of. The amount of moments he has delivered. He has defined Bayern's modern era, and he has defied modern football with his loyalty. A one-club legend. A man who has more Bundesliga titles to his name than many of the great German sides, Borussia Dortmund included. There, Harry Kane celebrating his first ever major title, and what a weight off his shoulders it must be. And the fact is, he hopes it's still the first of many. There must be a bit of a different feeling to taking to the training pitch in front of your own fans, knowing that you've won your first major title, and knowing, in Harry Kane's case, that he played a major part in delivering it once again. His goals almost, and in many seasons would have, delivered the Bundesliga title last season. His incredible record was only bettered, really, by the fact that Bayer Leverkusen produced one of the all-time greatest Bundesliga seasons, going unbeaten throughout the whole campaign. And this season it was Bayern who set the standards. Harry Kane setting the standards in the goal-scoring charts. He is the first player who will win the top goal scorers award in the Bundesliga in his first 2 seasons. Even some of the great strikers that German footballers witnessed weren't able to achieve that feat. But of course, not all of them arrived as the finished world-class product that Harry Kane arrived as at Bayern. And of course, he arrived with the expectations of delivering silverware. Certainly will have been disappointed to join Bayern and then go on to be part of their first trophyless season since 2012. But again, it was all about the response under Vincent Kompany. He talked about this whole season being a response to last season. And for many of these players, that's exactly what it has been. Leroy Sané, I mean, talk about a man who had a decent campaign last time out, but setting new personal bests in terms of his goal-scoring achievements in the current campaign. Michael Olise there in the background, manning the speakers, because of course they do like to have the feel-good factor on the training pitch. And Michael Olise has brought the feel-good factor to Bayern this season, without question. The signing of the season for the German record title holders. Yeah, the flick of the ears, that's the punishment. If you get oh dear me, Thomas Müller. I'll tell you what, only a veteran could get away with a move like that. And he does apologise. Oh, dear me. Oh, well, he's still young at heart, isn't he, Mr. Thomas Müller? I'm not sure many could have gotten away with that without a bit of repercussions from Leon Goretzka. Thomas Müller might have been one of the only ones. He'll run it off though, Leon. Sure, it's not the first time it's happened out at Säbener Straße. And Sonny tells me he'll find a way to get his own back on Thomas Müller, so keep an eye on that one, actually. Now, Thomas Müller, he is going to enjoy and lap up every last second of every last training session. There's no doubt about it. A man who just loves having the ball at his feet and being in this environment. And that is why his name is on the back of literally every shirt. Look at it. It's incredible. What a player. What a legend. What a legacy he leaves behind. Of course, he has now won his 13th Bundesliga title. What a career and what a legacy he does leave behind. Of course, if you are in the Facebook chat, feel free to drop a question. James Thorogood, your host here today for what will be one of the last live training sessions of this glittering season now for Bayern that has been crowned with the Bundesliga title. The foundation has been laid by Vincent Kompany. Sonny tells me they will look to use it as a springboard to go on to bigger and better in next season as well. Vincent Kompany taking to social media to say that we can now take a moment to enjoy winning the Bundesliga, and what an incredible feeling it is. He says, I want to congratulate the players for their outstanding effort throughout the season. You've done this together. You've won it as a team. A big thank you as well to everyone working behind the scenes at this great club, especially in the sporting department. Your hard work matters and it shows. Let's keep pushing. He says the season is not over yet and there's still so much to look forward to. Let's finish strong together. And last but certainly not least, a massive thank you to you all, the Bayern fans all over the world, for all of your support. You've been superb. For those who can't make it, let's create a special moment together on Saturday at the Allianz Arena. And of course, we will have coverage of that final home game of the season. But as Vincent Kompany points out, there are many of you Bayern fans from around the world, so feel free to drop a flag in the chat or let us know where in the world you're tuning in from, because we'd like to celebrate the worldwide fan base that these Bavarian giants have, because their reach goes far beyond Säbener Straße, far beyond the Allianz Arena. And while we'd love to have all of you in attendance on Saturday for that game, there is a limit even in that great stadium. A fun fact as well for you. Out of the 5 teams to have won a domestic double in Germany, only Bayern themselves managed to retain at least one of the titles the following season. They did it 3 times and even managed to win consecutive domestic doubles, but the teams before them, Dortmund, Leverkusen, Werder Bremen, Köln, all fell foul of the curse. Vincent Kompany, a very happy man for delivering yet another Bundesliga title. The 33rd in the Bundesliga era, the 34th all-time when Bayern have been crowned champions. And I'm pleased to tell you we can get some reactions from a couple of the players. Harry Kane, Manuel Neuer and Konrad Laimer all sat down with the Bayern media department to give their thoughts on the title win and the post-match celebrations. Just to warn you, the clips from Neuer and Laimer will be in German. I'll let you know what they say afterwards. I'll give you a little translation of what they've said so that you don't feel left out at all, because we want to feel that everyone is included here and knows exactly what's going on. Of course, Harry Kane will be speaking in English, and he's got a fair few things to say about his first title. So it's nice to be able to share this clip with you. I'll go quiet for a while. You can enjoy the clip. It's about 2.5 minutes. And then, as I said, I'll come back and I'll give you the translations for what Manuel Neuer and Konrad Laimer said.
It feels good. It feels amazing, to be honest. You know, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication throughout the season, and to have this reward now is special. It's a special group of players, the staff, and obviously my first one in my career, so it feels that extra little bit sweet. So it was a good celebration last night, and I'm sure there'll be a few more to come over the next weeks.
Diese Meisterschaft hat erstmal besonders gemacht, dass wir im letzten Jahr kein Meister geworden sind. Wir hatten ja eine lange Serie und dann merkt man mal, wie wichtig das ist, mit dem Verein deutscher Meister zu werden. Ich glaube, eine titellose Saison ist immer sehr hart und schwierig und deshalb war von Anfang an klar, dass die Motivation groß ist, wieder deutscher Meister werden zu wollen. Und ich glaube, diese Meisterschaft spricht dafür, dass wir ein gutes Team sind, dass wir gut zusammengewachsen sind und deshalb ist es auch was Besonderes.
Mein erster Titel hier, meine erste deutsche Meisterschaft. Und es war eigentlich schon alles klar, aber dann irgendwie, wo es dann doch passiert ist, ist dann trotzdem nochmal ein anderes Gefühl. Und wo wir dann auch gestern alle gemeinsam waren, war es wirklich ein sehr großartiges Gefühl. Man kann es nicht beschreiben in Worte, man muss irgendwie selber fühlen. Und es macht sehr viel Spaß, Titel zu gewinnen, und ich hoffe, da folgen noch viele mehr.
There was a small celebration last night. Yeah, I think a few of us will be feeling it today for sure, but rightly so. You know, we dedicate so much throughout the season and go through physically and mentally.
Die Konstanz hat dann für uns gesprochen und wir haben uns das absolut verdient. Am Ende hat wirklich jeder Spieler seinen Beitrag geleistet und wir als Team, auch mit dem Staff zusammen, haben das gerockt und deshalb haben wir auch diese Feier so genossen.
Dann triffst du dich und irgendwie war es dann sehr Besonderes meiner Meinung nach, weil jeder so ein bisschen unterschiedlichen Zeit aufgekommen ist, sage ich jetzt mal. Da gab es immer wieder mal eine neue Energie von jedem Einzelnen, was reingekommen ist, und mir hat Spaß gemacht.
Well, I think you don't need me to tell you that they were in good spirits as they gave those interviews. To let you know what Manuel Neuer and Konrad Laimer said, Manuel Neuer saying that this title is more special because Bayern didn't win it last season after their long streak, and as a result the motivation was really high from the start of this season. He said this title speaks for the fact that Bayern are a really strong team and they have grown really close together as a side. Konrad Leimer pointing out that, like Harry Kane, it's his first major title, his first Bundesliga title. Says it feels special. Said he had mixed feelings after the Leipzig game, but when the team were all together, it was an amazing feeling. Said he couldn't really describe it. He said it's a lot of fun to win titles. He hopes that there is more to come, and said of the celebrations that it was great to have everyone together. And he said that every time someone new arrived, it gave a little bit more impetus to the party. And as a result, they certainly enjoyed their evening that went into the early hours of the morning. But as Harry Kane rightly pointed out, given the dedication they show over the course of an entire campaign, one night can certainly be afforded before they then turn their attention back to what they do on a day-to-day basis, which is play football, try and entertain the masses and deliver results. I mentioned before that we love to celebrate the worldwide fan base, and it's nice to hear that some of you have got in touch on the Facebook chat. Feel free to post any questions, fire away with any opinions. We will happily discuss things. One thing I will say, transfer speculation is something that we avoid here on the live streams. We don't like talking about players that belong to other clubs. We like to talk about the players that belong to Bayern Munich and celebrate them as well. It's about showing respect in these moments as well. And of course, we still welcome questions though, and we'd love to hear from you. Give me your opinions on Thomas Müller. Let me know what you think of Thomas Müller's legacy. That's probably a good place to start, but I've got plenty of questions to fire your way if we need a bit of chat. But just having a look at the Facebook chat. People tuning in from Mozambique, from Cameroon, from the Ivory Coast, from Mali, from Bangladesh, Morocco. And so welcome to all of you. Great to have you along. Always delighted to have the pleasure of your company for these live streams where we get to take a closer look at these Bayern stars in action. So too do the public that have shown up on a day like today, where certainly takes a bit of dedication, because the weather conditions are certainly not as nice as they can be. Got hi from Australia, hi from Bangladesh, hi from Azerbaijan, South Africa. Great to hear from all of you. And so, I mean, get in touch. Let me know how you're feeling about this season, how you feel about the Bundesliga title being wrapped up. Maybe you could tell me who your player of the season is, maybe a signing of the season. I think there's one very strong candidate in that department, let's be honest. We've got unsung heroes of the campaign. We've got moments of the season as well, goals of the season. Get in touch. Let me know how you feel about what has gone down in the 24-25 campaign, because since match day 3, Bayern have been top of the Bundesliga, and they will finish top of the Bundesliga come match day 34 as well, no matter what happens in their final 2 games. But rest assured, they will want to win against Borussia Mönchengladbach at the Allianz Arena on Saturday, and on the final day of the season, they will also want to beat Hoffenheim and maybe exact revenge for the final day of the season defeat they suffered to Hoffenheim last time out. And of course, the title celebrations will take place at the Allianz Arena on Saturday. That is where they will be handed the title, so they can do it in front of their own fans, and Thomas Müller can do it in his final home game. What a fitting end to his glittering career with the club. And the numbers he's put up over the course of his time with Bayern. 13 Bundesliga titles. He is the record holder in that regard. Manuel Neuer just behind him with 12. Robert Lewandowski, David Alaba with 10. And then you look at some of the clubs, some of the biggest names in German football. Nuremberg with 9 titles, Dortmund with 8, Schalke with 7, Hamburg with 6, and Thomas Müller sits there on his own with 13. And he'll tell you himself, numbers aren't really his priority. He likes what he does, and he says it's more about the journey for him. It's more about the emotions, the feeling, the sharing those moments with the Bayern fans, of which he is one and always has been. You go back to the pictures of him in his youth and all the Bayern posters that were plastered across his walls. There was a distinct Bayern theme to his room growing up. And that's why it makes his connection with the club even more special. It makes his career even more special that he's achieved it with his boyhood club and gone through so many iterations with them. And he has been such a consistent source of both what it means to be a Bayern player and then that winning mentality that sets Bayern apart. And Vincent Kompany certainly had his challenges along the way. A couple of performances and results that I'm sure he would have liked to turn around, but as a point he's made throughout this season, on many of those occasions where Bayern did drop points, their performance was dominant. Their performance was of the caliber that they demand. And maybe 9 times out of 10, they'd have won those games or taken points from those games. And that one time, they got bitten on occasion this season. And I want to say, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly how many teams have done it. I want to say 7. 7 different teams scored with their first shots on target of a game against Bayern in this current campaign. I mean, that is an extraordinary statistic that genuinely it cannot continue at that level next season. Teams cannot keep getting that lucky with their first shots on target of a game. And so the fact is, the signs are there that Bayern are building themselves into quite a dominant force under Vincent Kompany. But of course, in his first season, it wasn't always going to be perfect. Of course, there were going to be a few bumps along the way. But he has delivered what every Bayern head coach is expected to deliver, which is the Bundesliga title. And on Saturday, they will celebrate. That man will as well. Now, Vincent Kompany, I believe, is a man of sentiment. I would like to think that Thomas Müller will be in the starting lineup for his final home game at the Allianz Arena, given the fact that the title has been wrapped up. But Vincent Kompany is also a winner. So is Thomas Müller. And Thomas Müller will be the first to understand if Vincent Kompany makes a decision that says, no, I need you on the bench at the start of that game, and I'll bring you on for your moment, because make no mistake, he will get his moment. I mean, the way the Allianz Arena crowd have chanted his name since the announcement of his departure has been, oh, I tell you what, it's enough to give you goosebumps. It's spine-tingling. So go on, let me know. What do you make of Thomas Müller? That's the question I posed to you all in the Facebook chat. Get in touch. How would you describe his legacy? What's maybe your favourite memory of his? A favourite goal? Whatever it can be. He's produced so many moments, so many trademark moments. There's so many of you getting in touch, so it's worth firing a question at you, because we've got people getting in touch from Bangladesh, Taiwan, Gabon, Nigeria, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Indonesia, Gambia. Got Usman Javara saying, my player of the season is Joshua Kimmich. I'll tell you what, Usman, great shout. For his consistency throughout this campaign, for his ability to unlock teams with his passing, his vision, his overview of it all. I tell you what, Joshua Kimmich is right up there for me as well in terms of player of the season, because I think he's got some contenders. Of course, Harry Kane with all his goals, Jamal Musiala for all his magic moments, Michael Olise for his impact as a new signing, certainly can take their plaudits as well. But Joshua Kimmich, what, he's missed 1 game so far this season? I want to say he's played 4,197 minutes of a possible 4,310. And it was only because of that little calf injury he picked up that he was forced out of action at one point. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Usman. I think he's certainly a player of the season. Some of his assists, some of those little dink balls over the top. I mean, his work in the Champions League was exceptional. The assists he provided in that competition. I would know he was in my fantasy team, and there was a reason he was in my fantasy team from the start of the season as well, because Joshua Kimmich is, for me, a world-class midfielder. Ebrahim saying, I'm from Nigeria. Congrats, Harry Kane. Certainly one of the players that will be celebrating the most, given the fact that it is his first major title. For Konrad Leimer, it's the first Bundesliga title. Valencio saying, I love this club. Friday saying, Mia San Mia. Mika saying 25 exclamation marks, and he tells me that's just about Thomas Müller. Isaac saying, whenever I think of Müller and hear anything about Müller, the only thing that comes to mind is his roaring celebration. Yeah! Yeah, I know exactly. You know what? I know exactly. I read your comment there, Isaac, or Isaac. I don't know which way to pronounce that name. I hope I'm not doing you a disservice, but I can picture exactly what you mean. And that is the image. It's that image right there that's plastered on the back of that kit. That is exactly the image that is emblazoned in our minds. Dadman saying Michael Elise proved why Bayern Munich needed to sign him. Absolutely. Well, I wouldn't say they needed, because they had world-class wingers in their ranks. Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sané, Kingsley Coman have all chipped in moments this season. But yes, Michael Elise has certainly been a standout in that regard. And it was not to be taken for granted for him to make the step up from Crystal Palace to Bayern, and in his first season put up the type of numbers that genuinely we haven't seen from a winger in a debut season since Franck Ribéry and Arjen Robben were on the books. And I mean, we know the careers that they went on to have, and let's hope that Michael Elise is on his way to similar. For him, this is his first major title as well. It's exactly why he wanted to move to Munich. And he might be one of the quieter, more unassuming professional footballers out there, but I tell you what, he does a lot of speaking with the ball at his feet. And he's one of those players that really thrives off the joy of playing football and some of the skills he's produced, some of the goals. I mean, his goal against Shakhtar Donetsk in that impressive win in the Champions League is one of the candidates for goal of the season in Bayern's ranks this season, without question. I mean, you tell me, those of you in the Facebook chat, if there's a goal from this campaign that stands out as your goal of the season, I'd love to know it. I've got a couple of candidates for various different reasons. I look at the one scored by Michael Elise against Shakhtar as a moment of individual brilliance. His free kick against Bochum was quite impressive as well. Alphonso Davies, the winner against Celtic, that's more for the emotional side of things and what that meant to Bayern in the moment. There was the goal by Jamal Musiala against Eintracht Frankfurt in the recent 4-0 win, where he took everyone on a solo mission. He got tripped up. He showed the determination to get back to his feet and then still finish off the chance. Vincent Kompany, all smiles as he sees his players go through the motions. And he would have been all smiles when Jamal Musiala scored the goal that opened the scoring against Leipzig in a 5-1 win, because that was a team moment. That was when the high press really worked out. They forced the mistake out of Leipzig, and then there was some crisp passing as well as Bayern opened the scoring early in that game, and Musiala with the finishing touches. But again, that was all about the vision of Vincent Kompany, of what he wants from his side in terms of turning the ball over, high up the pitch, cutting the distance to goal as quickly as possible. And Bayern have scored so many times this season. Oof. I'll tell you what, that's a no-nonsense drill if ever I've seen one. The ball's just being fired in from close range at Manuel Neuer and Sven Ulreich. Oh, to be a goalkeeper. Mika saying, we've got to, and I'll translate his comment in the chat, we've got to congratulate Harry as well for his first real trophy. And he says, next year, the triple. I like your thinking, Mika. Ngari saying the player of this season, and I got to admit, if I'm not, I might not be saying that name right at all, and I do apologise. But saying player of the season, Joshua Kimmich as well. That's 2 shouts for Joshua Kimmich for player of the season. Jean-Paul says Gnabry gets the goal of the season. I mean, you haven't told me which one. Is that the one where he plucked it out of the air and then fired home on the volley? Because, yes, you're right. That was quite an eye-catching goal. No doubt about it. Interesting to see some of the different drills that these players now go through. Vincent Kompany has gotten quite inventive with some of what he puts his players through in terms of their paces in training. But one thing you notice, I tell you what, these guys might have been crowned champions. They might have celebrated on Sunday, and just look how competitive and how sharp they are in even a little drill like this. Yeah, Harry Kane does not want to lose. João Paulinho does not want to lose. No one wants to lose. This is what being a Bayern player is all about. Giving your best, showing up at every moment. In training, in the friendly matches, in the big games. Vincent Kompany underlining the fact that he is a competitive spirit, and so it doesn't matter whether it's a friendly match. He wants to win those as well. A lot of love for Thomas Müller in the Facebook chat, and rightly so. A man who always brings good spirits to training. Well, I think that might have been an errant strike from Serge Gnabry that tested our sideline microphones there. Keddy saying, "We love you, Thomas Müller." And it will be very strange when the time comes for him not to be making regular appearances here at Säbener Straße, for him not to be taking to the pitch. He joked in a post-match interview recently about the fact that he'd have to buy a ticket soon. Sonny tells me he won't have to try too hard. His connection should be good enough to get him a spot in the Allianz Arena on occasion. Worth pointing out as well, we've got a couple of young players in the mix in training today. Jonah Kusi Asare, Lennart Karl, Wisdom Mike. And there is Lennart Karl, or at least the back of his head. One of the most promising young players, one of the hot prospects in the Bayern Academy. And it was Bayern's under-19s that recently beat Borussia Dortmund in the semi-finals of the cup competition in their age range, and Lennart Karl scored a pretty impressive goal in that game. And well, Bayern were actually reduced to 10 men when Jonah Kusi Asare was sent off, but they rose to the challenge, beating Dortmund 4-2. Something tells me Lennart Karl will be making his Bundesliga debut and his Bayern debut before the end of this season. He's got a real zip about his game. The young, wily winger, just 17 years of age. Balling. And the Bayern players are balling here, and that's exactly what they love to do. Well, this is a sizable rondo, really. Just look at the quality of passes, though. The quality of defending, the positioning. This is where it all starts. We see the success put out on the pitch for 90 minutes. But without these moments here at Säbener Straße, the standards are not set. Jonas Urbig. Fun fact about him, he might become the third player in the history of German football to win both the Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 titles in the same season. The other players that have done it, Pasi Rauatainen, who did it in the 1980-81 campaign, and Frank Hartmann in the 1986-87 season. Both of them did it with Bayern, whilst getting winners' medals for having been on the books with Werder Bremen and Hannover 96. Now, admittedly, the weekend's results knocked Köln off of top spots in the Zweite Bundesliga. So he needs things to change if he does want to join that rather niche group of players. As mentioned, for Manuel Neuer, he'll be winning his 12th Bundesliga title. For Jonas Urbig, of course, his first. And Urbig has certainly played his part in some of the games down the stretch as well. A lot was made of the fact that he became the first Bayern goalkeeper to not keep a clean sheet in his first 5 games for the club. And there we see, just to point out, the 2 other youngsters in training today, Cassiano Chiala and David Santos. Santos, 18 years old, Chiala, 16. Chiala's a centre-back. Santos is a holding midfielder. And it's Chiala on the left and Santos on the right. Both have been catching the eye for the under-19s, and Chiala in particular is someone that has apparently caught the eye of Vincent Kompany as a young centre-back. But at 16 years of age, of course, still a long way to go. Nevertheless, incredible moments for those 2 to be gaining experience amongst players like Leon Goretzka, Joshua Kimmich, Konrad Laimer, established professionals that have been there and seen it all at the highest level. And they can see the standards being set here in training, because these are the standards they're going to have to rise to throughout their careers. And the fact is, Bayern have taken a lot of pride in some of their work with the academy in recent years. You look at the fact that Alexander Pavlovic, Jamal Musiala, Josip Stanisic have all come through the ranks in that regard. And I mentioned the fact that we've got Lennart Karl, who is definitely the hot prospect, but he's not alone in that regard. Because Kusir Sare certainly has quite an imposing figure for a striker with his height, even taller than Harry Kane. Wisdom Mike has already caught the eye in a couple of appearances in training. Got Adam Asnu as well, the young left-back, Moroccan international, who is certainly impressing during a loan spell right now with Real Valladolid. I have to say as well, when we're talking about young stars, worth mentioning Javier Fernandez, the young midfielder slash centre-back who really caught the eye in pre-season. Unfortunately, he suffered a nasty knee injury that has required an operation, so wish him a speedy recovery, because the way he was playing was really catching the eye. He felt like he might be knocking on the door of breaking into the senior side this season, and if not this season, definitely next. But unfortunately, a knee injury like that can be a hefty setback, so we do hope he recovers It's not about the speed, it's about going through the right steps to make sure that the knee is fully healed so that he can have a future here in Bavaria. Now Lennart Karl, born in Frammersbach, just outside of Frankfurt. His signature will certainly be sought after, but Bernie doesn't mind dishing a few out as well, the club mascot. But you look at Lennart Karl's numbers this season. 23 goals, 10 assists in the under-17 league in 14 appearances. Look at his output in all competitions for both the under-17s and the under-19s. 28 appearances, 34 goals and 10 assists. I mean, those are fantastic numbers. And if he doesn't get his Bayern debut on Saturday against Borussia Mönchengladbach, I would almost guarantee that he will against Hoffenheim on the final day of the season. Getting a few more comments from you in the Facebook chat. Mika saying Harry Kane, his goal with the first touch and the header was a beauty this season. There was a shout for Alexander Pavlovic's goal against Leverkusen being the goal of the current campaign from Ngari. And as mentioned, there are plenty of candidates for a variety of reasons. It really comes down to what do you prefer in terms of the way goals are scored. Because Harry Kane has scored his fair share and many of them have been eye-catching. Every time Jamal Musiala touches the ball, you feel like something is about to be conjured up, and some of the skills he's put on display this season are ridiculous. Thomas Müller, 3-15. He never doesn't keep track of the score, even in training. I mean, this is it. Look, his legacy out on the pitch is undeniable, but the standards that this man has adapted to and set over the course of his career is really what sets him apart. I hope you've had the chance maybe at some point to watch the documentary on Thomas Müller. Einer wie keiner. One of a kind, and that is the only way to describe this man. One of the most unique careers. An idol for players like Alexander Pavlovic to look up to as what is achievable as someone that comes through the Bayern Academy. And yes, it's not easy because Bayern's standards are ridiculously high. This is an elite club with elite standards. And so Thomas Müller is a rarity in terms of breaking through the Bayern Academy, breaking into the team as early as he did, and then having the longevity that he has had, the all-time record appearance maker, who on Saturday will make his 750th appearance in all competitions for Bayern. 538 wins in all competitions in the previous 749 games. He has smashed every record available to him in terms of title wins, in terms of appearances. And he himself says that there's another Müller who's ahead of him, in the discussion of greatest of all time. But for many of my generation, and maybe a bit younger as well, maybe a bit older, Thomas Müller will be seen as one of the greatest of all time. I think Müller's point, Thomas's point, is that Bayern's success in modern times would not have been possible without the likes of Franz Beckenbauer, without the likes of Gerd Müller, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. And of course, Vincent Kompany was on the pitch when Thomas Müller made his debut against Hamburg way back when, on match day 1 of the 2008-2009 season. Jürgen Klinsmann handing him his debut. And it was Vincent Kompany who was the Hamburg centre-back at the time. So it's almost a very fitting storyline that, having been there for his debut, that Vincent Kompany will also hand Thomas Müller his final Bundesliga game and his final game as a Bayern player. And I assume analysing the footage, maybe they're counting up the scoreline just to check whether Thomas Müller was correct with his 3-15 tally. Over 600 of you in the Facebook chat, so welcome along. Pleasure to have your company. However you're watching, though, it doesn't matter. Great to have you on board and tuned in. We're getting a nice close look at the freshly crowned Bundesliga champions. The Meisterschale has been reclaimed. Bayern, German champions for a 34th time and a 33rd time in the Bundesliga era, which of course started back in 1963. They are the Rekordmeister, the record title holders, Bayern, and they've added to their silverware cabinet once again in Vincent Kompany's first season in charge. Here on the chat, we're asking you for your opinions on who's been the player of the season, who's been the signing of the season, who's been the unsung hero of the season, maybe what was your moment of the season or goal of the season. And of course, the season's not over yet. We've got 2 more games to go in the Bundesliga against Gladbach and against Hoffenheim. And of course, then after that, there's a little break because we've got the UEFA Nations League Final 4 taking place, of which Germany will be participating. Their first game in the semi-finals against Portugal in Munich. If they win that game, they'll play the final in Munich as well. If they lose that game, they'll play a third-place playoff in Stuttgart. And then shortly after that mini-tournament, Bayern will then begin preparations in earnest for the first ever version or inaugural version of the new Club World Cup, set to take place in North America. And Bayern have their sights set on that title as well. They'd love to be the first winners of that. It's the type of thing that Bayern would pride themselves on. They've been drawn in the supposed group of death with Benfica, Boca Juniors and Auckland City. Auckland City, though, an amateur side, and interviews have been done with their players, and they can't believe their luck in playing against clubs like Bayern, Benfica and Boca Juniors. It's the stuff of dreams for them. They'll hope not just to be the whipping boys, but maybe play their part. Bayern, though, will be wanting to top that group and then go on to maybe claim the title themselves. Joe says, well done, Bayern. Wish I was at the Allianz Arena next Saturday, but because of work, I can't. I hope to celebrate in Marienplatz the Sunday after. Well, Joe, I hope that is a reality for you, because, yes, the celebrations at Marienplatz will be certainly something. And, of course, it won't be just the men celebrating as well. Bayern's women's side have won the domestic double for the first ever time. So incidentally, it's the second season in a row that the Bayern's women have won more titles than Bayern's men, but something tells me that won't always be the case. Nevertheless, fantastic celebrations will be had on the Rathaus, the town hall balcony, next Sunday. So sorry that we can't have you at the Allianz Arena on Saturday, Joe, but of course you can follow coverage of it on Bayern's web radio service. There'll be highlights after the game as well as the post-match press conference and post-match quotes. That's the little package that we like to deliver you on a match day when it comes to getting you as close as possible to the action when Bayern take to the pitch. Jorin Jr. asking where are the following players: Upamecano, Alphonso Davies and Musiala. Well, unfortunately, Jorin, they are all injured. And as a result, they are working on their comebacks. But given now that Bayern have wrapped up all possible titles, I don't think they will be forced back into action before the end of the season, and some of them wouldn't have been able to anyway. It was Jamal Musiala and Dayot Upamecano when they first got injured. People were talking about the fact that, well, if Bayern get to the Champions League final on May 31st, then maybe, just maybe, they could feature. But now that that is not a possibility, there is every reason to prioritise their recovery and then hope that maybe some, if not all of them, can feature at the Club World Cup. And of course, injuries did play their part down the stretch for Bayern as well. Manuel Neuer, Jamal Musiala, Dayot Upamecano, Alphonso Davies, Hiroki Ito. You go back a little bit further this season, we had Alexander Pavlovic out for a long spell of time. Even Joshua Kimmich missed a game. Min-Jae Kim has been working with an Achilles issue for much of the season. Joao Palhinha out injured as well. Josip Stanisic missed a big chunk of the first half of the campaign and some of the second half as well with his knee injury that required surgery. And I think that might be something that Vincent Kompany hopes changes next season, as he doesn't have to deal with as many injury headaches over the course of the campaign. It really was the recent March international break that was such a killer for Bayern, because Alphonso Davies, Dayot Upamecano came back injured from that. Hiroki Ito had been put through his paces with Japan and then promptly re-injured the metatarsal that he had broken earlier this season. And of course, it was shortly after that that we lost Jamal Musiala as well to a hamstring problem. Joe says, I watched the game on Saturday from work at the Zeebrugge Rovers Football Club. Well, hopefully you can enjoy the match from there just as much as you would in the Allianz Arena. It will be an incredible atmosphere, but the title celebrations, I'm sure, will project the type of emotions that will beam through your screens no matter where you're watching from. And of course, we're well aware that not everyone can make it to the Allianz Arena based on where they live in the world. And ultimately, only 75,000 fans fit inside that wonderful stadium anyway, so Bayern's worldwide fan base is in the millions. A lot of you posting congratulations in the chat. I'd love to pass them all on, but unfortunately don't quite have that opportunity. And the fact is, though, these players will be getting congratulations from all corners. Vincent Kompany certainly deserves his fair share of the praise as well, given what he has managed to achieve in his first ever season in charge of a club with huge expectations he was familiar with from his time as a player with Manchester City. Of course, a couple of German journalists stuck their foot in it recently when asking him how it felt to win his first trophy as a head coach, and he pointed out, well, I won the league, amassing over 100 points with Burnley in the English Championship to earn that side promotion. And there were a few eyebrows raised by some when, having been relegated with Burnley from the Premier League, Bayern then took a bit of a gamble by bringing in Vincent Kompany, because unproven as a head coach at the highest level, but look at what he's managed to achieve. Picked up the pieces after the reigns of Julian Nagelsmann and Thomas Tuchel. He's got them back to title-winning ways. They've delivered some really dominant performances, some eye-catching attacking outputs, some fantastic defensive displays. And yes, there were a few bumps in the road. I've said this before already on this live stream, and I've said it on commentary as well on Bayern's web radio service, where we hope you can join us on a weekly basis. But not everything was going to be perfect. Something tells me there'll be more work done this summer by the Belgian and his staff, just to tighten things up even more. If you look at the goal-scoring output alone, 132 goals in 49 games for Bayern this season. You compare that to recent seasons. Last season, 120. Season before that, 134. Season before that was 143 in the 21-22 campaign. I don't think they'll quite match that output in the final 2 games of this season, but it shows the standards that Vincent Kompany has set, and he was an elite defender in his time, but he talks about the fact that goals are a focus of his work as a head coach, and that stems from his times on the streets of Anderlecht and Brussels. Still got a good first touch on him as well, if you see. We've seen already this morning. Rita says, congratulations, my Bayern. Mujema says the unsung hero for him is Konrad Laimer. Great shout. That, for me, I'm right there with you. Konrad Laimer has been, once again, the man that just seems to have plugged all the gaps. He's chipped in with a couple of goals as well in some big moments, some big driving runs from right back. But he's played at left back. He's played in holding midfield as well. And for me, yeah, absolutely qualifies as an unsung hero, Konrad Laimer. You look at last season, 43 appearances in all competitions, 19 were at right back, 24 were at central midfield, and similar numbers put up in the current campaign as well. But the fact is, when he is asked to fill in, he steps up, and he is such a driving force. Halua says, congratulations, Bayern Munich. Congratulations, Harry Kane. First major title for Harry Kane. And Rita says, Super Harry and Dyer, Mia San Mia, because, of course, Eric Dyer as well. The 2 former Tottenham teammates now have come to Munich and won a title. Unfortunately, we are losing Eric Dyer from the Bayern books this summer. Shame to see him go, because he's been a wonderful servant, but the fact that he is departing has been confirmed by sporting director Christoph Freund in the press conference before the game against Leipzig. But he leaves on title-winning terms. Sabrina saying nothing really happening today based on the way it's seen. Well, this is a live training session. We are here to enjoy these sides and these players going through the motions a little bit, putting themselves to the test in various different training ground routines. And personally, I think it's always fascinating to see what these players do behind closed doors. And we might not get a full look at the spectrum of routines they go through, but this alone, this drill we're watching, you know, the 3 blocks in midfield, then it's all about breaking the lines. It's finding creative solutions. It's finding outlet passes. And this is all to then hone the skills so that when they take to a football pitch over the course of 90 minutes, they can find the solutions to break down teams that like to sit deep, like to frustrate, like to try and destroy a game. Gabriel says, champions. Jorin from Zambia asking when the following people are likely to come back: Upamecano, Musiala and Alphonso Davies. If I'm right, Jorin, off the top of my head, I'd have to look up the articles and the reports that came out initially. I don't think Alphonso Davies is going to be back for the Club World Cup. I think his target is ultimately to be back for next season and the start of next season. But I believe there's a chance that Dai Upamecano and Jamal Musiala could return for the Club World Cup. Now, ultimately, I don't know what the current status is when it comes to the progress of their recovery. I know Jamal Musiala has been in training. He was talking with his teammates in the lead-up to the Leipzig game. The fact is, we hope they make a full recovery and not necessarily a speedy one. Patrick saying, where is Harry? Well, Harry's definitely out on the pitch. I've seen him many a time. question from Trong Wanda. And I will once again state that we don't discuss transfer speculation on these streams because we don't want to talk and show disrespect by talking about players that belong to other clubs. And so we will not be discussing any potential signings unless they are made official. So far, no official moves made yet by Bayern for next season, but it will be interesting to see where they look on the transfer market. Because Vincent Kompany, I'm sure, and this is without discussing speculation of individual players, but I'm sure Vincent Kompany will have some ideas in mind of maybe areas to improve the squad, maybe add a little bit more strength and depth in certain areas as well, so that maybe someone like Konrad Laimer doesn't necessarily need to always fill in at right back. Of course, Bayern have a plethora of goalkeepers to choose from. Manuel Neuer, who next season will hit the grand old age of 40. And certainly in recent seasons has had to deal with a few more injuries than he was accustomed to, and I guess that comes with veteran status. But I guess he'll be the man who decides his fate when it comes to how much longer he goes, and we've certainly seen that he's still an incredible goalkeeper. Might not be at the peak of his powers like he was back in the day, but I tell you what, he's still one of the best in the world, Manuel Neuer. No question about it. Saibu saying, I love Mia San Mia. People tuning in from all over the globe. And Patrick says, I'm a Man United fan, but I love Harry so much. Congratulations to him. Well, we appreciate that, Patrick. And those are the moments, and I have to say, it's been incredible to see the amount of people and clubs and players that have congratulated Harry Kane. Big sporting personalities from other sports as well that have left him social media comments, and it's right, because a few players more deserving of a first major trophy than Harry Kane, given the career he has had. One of the world's best strikers, joined one of the world's best teams. He delivered goals, he delivered match-winning moments, game-changing moments, big game moments. And now he gets his first major title. Fully deserving of it as well. Karma saying congratulations to Bayern for breaking the curse on Harry Kane. More trophies for him before he leaves Bayern. Mia San Mia, and that's the message from Harry Kane as well. He's hoping it's the first of many. He's not done yet. First taste of silverware. It's not exactly going to satiate the hunger levels, is it? If anything, it's for someone like Harry Kane, I believe it would have made him even more hungry for more. And Bayern will want to add to this Bundesliga title with another. But they'll then have their eyes on reclaiming the DFB Pokal, which they haven't won since 2020. And while the Champions League final next season won't be in Munich, so they won't have that added motivation, every season that Bayern go into, they want to win the Champions League title. 6 times they've claimed it already. But if anything, the final in Munich perhaps just came one season too early. If the final was in Munich next season, I would have really been very confident that after Vincent Kompany's debut campaign and the foundation laid, that Bayern could build and keep getting better and better and keep growing together with the vision that Kompany has for this side. And they might have been in a much better position to be primed for a run to the final. Don't get me wrong, they weren't far off this time around. Inter Milan, though, just found a way to get goals at vital moments. And for me, I'll be honest, when Thomas Müller scored in that first leg at the Allianz Arena, despite what happened afterwards with Fratesi getting a winner for Inter Milan, that for me will be one of the big moments, the best moments of this season, because that outpouring of emotion, fresh from hearing that Thomas Müller was going to be leaving Bayern in the summer, he then goes and scores what would have been a crucial equaliser perhaps in that Champions League quarter-final tie. And the celebrations were some of the best and most spine-tingling I've experienced at the Allianz Arena ever, let alone in the last couple of years. And unfortunately, the fairy tale ending wasn't to be because Fratese found a winning goal. But I'd love to hear from you guys, the Bayern fans, watching this live stream. Got just under 750 of you in the Facebook chat, so feel free to get in touch. Feel free to ask me questions. If you've got a question for me, fire away. I'd love to answer any questions you do have. As mentioned, we won't deal with any transfer speculation, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to give you my opinions on some of the things I've seen over the course of this season about the progress made by Vincent Kompany. But I'd love to hear from you as well. I'd love to hear who your player of the season is, who your signing of the season is, who your unsung hero of the season is. We've already had a few shout-outs for certain players, but I'd love to hear more. Maybe you have a moment of the season or a goal of the season. Please, feel free, get in touch. Fire away in the chat. I'm happy to give you my opinions on those matters as well. For me, player of the season, I think I've got to give it to Harry Kane for the goals he's scored. But I'd like to give a huge shout to Joshua Kimmich for the consistency and the world-class performances he's produced over the course of this season. My signing of the season is Michael Olise, without question. He's been amazing. And the impact he's made is not to be taken for granted for a winger in his debut campaign with a club when making the step up and having such huge expectations then put on his shoulders and then delivering on those as well. The assists, the goals, double digits in both categories. That is remarkable numbers from Michael Olise. My unsung hero of the season is without question Konrad Laimer. Though I think there are other candidates as well. Jonas Urbig might be a bit of a late shout in that regard. Moment of the season, as mentioned, Thomas Muller's name being chanted every time before the game now since announcement of his departure. But the celebrations for his goal against Inter certainly stand out in the memory. So too does the winning goal by... I say it's the winning goal. It wasn't the winning goal, was it? It was the equaliser scored by Alphonso Davies in the second leg against Celtic in the Champions League playoffs, because, of course, Bayern won the first leg 2-1. Celtic went 1-0 up, and they looked like they were going to maybe force that tie to go to extra time. And then Alphonso Davies, unlikely goal scorer, but popping up with one of the biggest goals of the season for Bayern in that regard. Kabir says, rate our season. Now, that's an interesting one. What would I rate Bayern's season on out of 10? Because it was a debut season under Vincent Kompany. That needs to be taken into context, which is something that Kompany talks about a lot. There have been huge injuries along the way that have proven problematic. But yes, Bayern are a side that have strength in depth and a world-class squad, so that can't necessarily be used as an excuse. But nothing has been perfect, and I'm not going to pretend it was. Even in the Bundesliga, there are a couple of performances. You go back to the 3-3 draw against Frankfurt, the 3-3 draw from last weekend against Leipzig. Rankle a little bit. The game against Bochum where Joao Paulinho got sent off, and Kompany would love to take that one back, no doubt. The defeat to Mainz as well earlier this season, where Bayern weren't at their best and will be the first to admit it and got punished on that occasion. And so I think, you know, a solid 7, 8 out of 10 campaign, given all those factors that are in play. Because they've won the Bundesliga. And they will be disappointed to have fallen short in the DFB Pokal again, but they fell short against Bayer Leverkusen in a game where they were reduced to 10 men when Manuel Neuer got sent off for the first time in his career and suffered a rib injury that then kept him out of action after a hefty collision with Jeremy Frimpong. And even in that game, you look back on it, Bayern, they would have been the far more deserving winners. They were dominant even with 10 men. They were the better team. They were producing the better moments, the better chances. And yet somehow Leverkusen managed to find a lucky punch. And in the Champions League again, they came up against an Inter side, one of the best defensive sides in Europe. An Inter team that had only conceded 2 goals in 10 Champions League games this season. And Bayern scored 3 goals against them across 2 games. And unfortunately, it just wasn't enough to keep that dream of another Finale de home alive. Another Champions League final on home soil. So yeah, I think 7, 8 out of 10 maybe. Should we call it in the middle, 7.5 out of 10? Kabir, what would you rate Bayern's season, given the success they've had, given the fact that it was Kompany's first in charge? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on how you judge it. Laura asking, is it possible to see the next match or see the match next Saturday on Bayern TV before and after the match with the special celebrations, even in the dressing room? I don't think there's going to be any live coverage, but I can guarantee you Bayern will certainly have a YouTube clip or two, or a YouTube video kind of documenting the celebrations. And I'm sure you'll get a look in the dressing room as well. But what you can do, if you want to tune in live, is tune into Bayern's web radio service, where you'll have me as your match commentator for the full 90 minutes against Borussia Mönchengladbach, where we'll be taking you along the ride of the 90 minutes, and I'm sure we'll be taking in some of the post-match celebrations as well, when Bayern will lift the Bundesliga Meisterschale. So I'd love to have your company on Bayern's web radio service. I'd love to have everyone's company on Bayern's web radio service. I've got a few more people getting in touch. Amadou saying, my player of the season is young Jonas Urbig. He came up at the time when the team needed him the most. He was just amazing and fantastic in every aspect. He is young and talented. He will achieve a lot of things in this great club. You know what? I don't mind the shout, because for me, I'll be honest, Amadou, Jonas Urbig falls more into the category of unsung hero, because even in games where he wasn't keeping clean sheets, he was making huge saves. He kept the clean sheets against Leverkusen, the 2 legs in the Champions League, as Bayern broke the Xabi Alonso curse against Leverkusen. He had a bit of a moment to forget in the game against Union Berlin. But even Manuel Neuer came to his defense after that game and said, well, the cross came in. He had to do something. Yes, the way he acted, palmed the ball straight to Benedikt Hollerbach, allowed Union Berlin to get an equaliser in that game. Hey, Jamal Musiala. I wasn't expecting to see him today out on the Säbener Straße pitch, continuing his recovery on an individual basis from that hamstring injury, but he looks like he's all smiles. And I'll tell you what, based on the fact that he is out on the pitch again today, I reckon he will be back for the Club World Cup. And it was Joran who was asking the question. I think the fans have just spotted the fact that Jamal Musiala's come out. It took a while, didn't it? But what a wonderful sight on this Tuesday, well, afternoon now. Again, I don't think we'll be seeing Jamal Musiala in Bundesliga action before the end of the season, because there's no need to rush him back into action. But something tells me for the Club World Cup, he will be playing a part, and that'll be a huge thing for Bayern. A nice little surprise for those fans that have turned up at Säbener Straße on a wet and windy morning/afternoon now. But just to go to the point, Amadou, I do agree with you. Jonas Urbig, really some big moments, some big saves. As we take the picture of the winners in this particular training session, Jamal Musiala, is the glory hunter that he is, just tacking on for the team photo at the end of it. Bit cheeky, but you can forgive him, can't you? Chong Wamda saying, player of the season, Joshua Kimmich. Best signing, Olise, of course, unsung hero, Konrad Laimer. Yep. Agree with you on all fronts. Jamal Musiala, I mean, he's another candidate for player of the season. It's just one of those when got injured at the vital moment. Almost takes the gloss off his campaign, but that's not really his fault, is it? Patrick saying a rating of this season, a solid 7.5. So agreeing with me on that front. Jamal Musiala, now you can hear the calls from the fans in attendance as signatures will now be handed out, and they're plenty coveted. None more, I'm sure, than Thomas Muller's. Chong Wamda saying amazing. Bayern just one red card in the league this season, and that was, of course, the costly one for Joao Paulinho against Bochum in that 3-2 defeat. Jennifer saying it's a shame it's not the school holidays. Her daughter a little disappointed not to be able to show up today at Säbener Straße. But a wonderful turnout for the Bayern players. Muzi saying we love Bayern München here in Africa. Isaac's gotten in touch saying the best and most consistent player, Joshua Kimmich. Yep, can't disagree with that at all. Best signing, Michael Olise. I'll skip the next category because we like to keep it positive here. The unsung heroes in the squad, Lima and Goretzka. Yeah, you know what? That's a really good shout. Leon Goretzka, what a story he has been. The redemption arc from peripheral figure, basically told at the start of the season that his minutes wouldn't be probably where he wanted them to be. He dropped down the pecking order in midfield, but if he was not one of the most important players for Bayern in the business end of the season, I don't know who was. The hunger, the drive, the determination in midfield, the performances he put in, match-winning at times, Leon Goretzka. The one against Stuttgart in particular stands out in my memory. But against Leverkusen, he was brilliant. Even against Inter, he had his moments as well. And he says low-key, Josip Stanisic as well. And I understand why you say low-key. Josip Stanisic, I tell you what, if he had had a full season with Bayern, I think it could have been a very special campaign for him. Unfortunately, that injury, that knee injury suffered at the start of the season, just meant that he didn't quite make the immediate impact upon his return to Bayern. And he says, unappreciated player, Min-Jae Kim. Well, that's kind of unsung hero, but I get what you're getting at, Isaac, because, yes, he played through the season with a long injury. And so certainly deserves plaudits. Laura also saying, I agree, the best player is Urbig. He was great. Karma saying, I'll give the Bavarians 6 out of 10 this season for their performance. And Laura saying, I was planning to come to Munich for next Saturday, but did not get tickets. Such a shame, but you can certainly enjoy it from home. Bayern's web radio service, of course, will have coverage of the final home game of the season against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Title celebrations of Thomas Müller, because it'll be his final game at the Allianz Arena as well. I do hope you can join us on Bayern's web radio service. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, we will leave it there for this live stream of the training session from Säbener Straße. Thank you for giving us the pleasure of a company. For everyone that got in touch with a question or a comment, thank you as well. It was great to have your company. But for now, enjoy the rest of your weeks, and we will hear from you again, or you'll hear from us again on Saturday.
Okay, thanks, Steve. But please go the second one. Stop! Oh, fuck off! You cannot play this. You go. Oh, it's too hard. Fuck. Please, Rami, taxi, please, just that one, please. Please, bro. I knew this was Rami, please, this one.
Please, guys, just turn around, play there. No chance to run.
No, it's too far there. Rami, please. We just play one game.
Go play from there to the 18-yard box line. No. You play from here to the 18-yard box.
It's perfect.